Was good, everybody? Was good? Was good? So, uh, today's video is about why do fans or people in general dictate the history of sports, right? Like, you know how they say, oh, if LeBron James was in the 1960s or 1970s, he would have dominated. Like, do you like do you understand if you mess with history, it's going to affect the future in that aspect of, you know, putting things putting things in its proper place, not really, just letting it play out, you know, it's better than just to nitpick, because what you can affect, what you affect, means, what you can affect in the past is going to ultimate in the future, you know. Like, let's say Allen Iverson did win the championship, right? Let's say you go back to that time period. Allen Iverson does get help. 76ers does help Iverson. Iverson does get a second star, a third star. How will that affect the future moving forward? You know what I'm saying? Or if Tom Brady never won those 6 championships, let's say he went three and now let's say he went, let me see, 7 trips, 6 titles. Let's say he had the same record as LeBron. Let's say he went 4-6 in the Super Bowl, right? So that means that Seattle would repeat, right? Um, that means the Falcons would get their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Um, that means the Rams would have at least won one of the Super Bowls. I know they faced them twice. They would have probably won one of them. Um, the Panthers would have won their first Super Bowl. So many things would have happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many things would have happened, in that time period, So I just think that people sometimes need to don't mess with history, because when you mess with history, it affects the outcome years later, right? Like, that's why I just let stuff play out. You know what I'm saying? If it was meant to be, it was meant to be. You know, like, why mess with history? Why even touch history? Because I was watching Men in Black 3 yesterday, right? And that was probably the best one in the franchise. I think Men in Black 3 was probably the most important one, because obviously Will Smith got to see how his dad died. Because for years he couldn't really remember how it happened. He couldn't really remember how it happened until he went back to the past and he found out Kay actually erased his memory. So that's why he couldn't really, remember. Because his dad was a sergeant. So when he got killed by one of the aliens, he was in the car and, Kay had the little flashing, had the little flashing light, and then he just beamed it, and that's just basically it. And he understood why, you know. So the same thing that happens in real life, y'all nitpick and say, oh, if this happened, if that happened, you, like, how would it have changed the future, you know? Like, if there was no Bulls, I'm pretty sure the NBA would have been like how it is today. You know, the past 5 championships have been different. They have not been a repeating champion since the uh, LA Lakers, I believe. Um, Same thing with the Patriots, you know. So if Jordan was never there, let's say Jordan got drafted by the Knicks, we would have been sitting here today. Reg Miller would have gotten a ring. Charles Barkley would have gotten a ring. Patrick Ewing would have gotten a ring. Karl Malone and what's his name? John Stockton would have gotten a ring. You know what I'm saying? So when you mess with history, it affects the future. So that's why that's why people should just let stuff play out and stop playing the if game. That's why I never played the if game. If this, if that, if this, if that, if this, if that. I mean, that's the one. That's like, I believe that's the number one thing that comes up in sports a lot. The if factor. If this happened, if this didn't happen, if this, like, y'all just bored. Y'all don't want to accept. Y'all do not want to accept reality. If stuff doesn't play out the way y'all don't want, I would probably say it's rigged or it's staged or it's this or it's that. And if it does go the way y'all want, other fans are gonna say, oh, you know what I'm saying? So it's a double-edged sword. So you can never win. You never got that in the 80s and 90s. Like you lived with the results. You gotten better. Okay, you lost, you get better over the course of the summer. You know what I'm saying? But now it's like, oh, if you don't win, it's because of the defense, or if you do win, it's because somebody got hurt. Like, oh God, y'all making my brain hurt. All this shit. But anyways, man, don't mess with history. Just let it play out. If it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. You know what I'm saying? I come from that era where, you get better. If you lose, you get better. Move on. You get better. And you come back even stronger next year. You don't nitpick. You don't point fingers. You don't say, oh, if this happened, if that happened, if this happened. No, you live with the results. You move on. You get better, and you come back stronger. That's how it was in the 80s and 90s. Now, it's like, you can never win, You can never win. So, just leave history alone. It'll take care of itself. If it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. So, yeah. So, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. I want to go to 1.9K.